Okay, so imagine this for a second. You have an intruder in your house, but they're not, hiding under the bed. They basically built themselves into the drywall. You find them, you kick them out the front door, and before you've even turned the deadbolt, they trigger some hidden mechanism that unlocks a window you didn't even know you had. And just like that, they're back inside, making a sandwich.
That is the ultimate persistence nightmare. And in the context of what we're talking about today, that house is your entire virtual infrastructure.
Exactly. We are looking at a report that just dropped yesterday, January 21, 2026, from CISA. It's about a new backdoor malware they've dubbed BRICKSTORM. And right off the bat, this isn't some generic ransomware hitting a laptop. This is targeting the absolute crown jewels. We're talking VMware, vSphere, vCenter servers, ESXi.
Which is why everyone is paying such close attention. I mean, when you talk about vSphere, you're not just talking about one computer. You're talking about the management plane for the entire data center. If you compromise that, you effectively control the physics of that digital universe.
Let's unpack that a little, because I think that distinction is so important. Usually, malware runs inside a virtual machine, right? A Windows VM or whatever. But this is different.
That is the critical differentiator, yeah.
Right.
Think of it like a hierarchy. You have the vCenter server managing the ESX hosts, and those hosts run all the virtual machines. So if an attacker owns vCenter, they are operating above the VMs.
So they can do, what? Snapshot them, clone them?
Anything. They can copy their memory, steal data, and the really terrifying part, the security tools running inside those virtual machines might never see a thing.
It's the perfect vantage point. You're completely invisible to the endpoint protection software because the threat isn't on the endpoint. It's coming from the infrastructure itself.
Precisely. The CISA report points out this allows for just massive data theft and lateral movement in ways that are incredibly hard to audit.
So before we get into the mechanics of how this thing refuses to die, which is frankly a bit terrifying, we should touch on the attribution. CISA was very specific.
They were. The report explicitly links the BRICKSTORM backdoor to PRC state-sponsored cyber actors.
Right. And as always, our mission here is just to analyze the technical side of things, what's in the source material. But what that attribution tells us from a threat intelligence view is that we're dealing with very well-resourced, very patient actors.
But this is espionage, not a smash and grab.
Yeah.
And you can see that level of resourcing in the code itself.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to that guest in the drywall idea you started with. BRICKSTORM has this self-monitoring capability that is just incredibly robust.
The zombie feature, it just won't die. The report says it hides in system directories like accessesconfig.
Which is a clever place to hide. I mean, for a sysadmin, that directory is full of obscure config files. A binary named something generic just blends in. But it's not just sitting there. It's running a continuous health check on itself. It's constantly asking, am I still active?
And if a security analyst finds the process ID and, kills it,
it just respawns. The malware detects that it's been terminated and immediately reinstalls and restarts itself, the self-healing loop.
And it creates that persistence by modifying the initialization scripts, right? So it's hooking into the boot process.
Yes. By altering those init scripts, it guarantees that even a full server reboot, the classic turn it off and on again, just reloads the malware with all the other legitimate services.
It weaves itself into the server's startup DNA.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for anyone tracking malware development. CISA analyzed 11 samples, and most of them were written in Go.
Golang, yeah. 8 of the samples.
But 3 of the newer ones were written in Rust.
And that is a huge signal.
We've been hearing so much about Rust, but usually for building secure, high-performance apps, why are malware authors making that switch?
Well, it really mirrors the trends in legitimate software development. For one, Rust offers memory safety. In a language like C, you can have memory errors that cause crashes. And if your malware crashes, a production server.
That's a huge, loud alarm bell for the admins. It gets you noticed.
Exactly. So by using Rust, they're essentially QAing their malware to be more stable. It eliminates entire classes of bugs.
But there's a second reason, isn't there?
There is. Reverse engineering Rust binaries is just much harder than C or Go right now.
The tooling for defenders isn't as mature yet.
It's getting there, but it's dense. The Rust compiler optimizes code in ways that make the final binary really complex to unravel. So the shift to Rust makes their tool more stable, and it buys them more time before analysts can figure out exactly what it's doing.
It's a professionalization of the whole process. This isn't just code, it's a modern tech stack.
That's the takeaway. This is software engineering, but it's being applied to espionage.
Okay, so we have this stable, self-healing backdoor. How did it even get there? The report has this timeline of an incident that is just a horror story for any network architect.
It is. The dwell time is the number that just jumps off the page.
Hmm.
The attackers had access from April 2024 all the way through September 2025.
Over a year. That's 17 months of undetected access.
Inside a high-value environment, yeah.
So let's walk through this heist, because they didn't just appear in the vCenter server. They had to work for it.
Right. The entry point was compromised web servers in the DMZ.
The demilitarized zone, which is pretty standard. That's your front line. But the DMZ is supposed to be a dead end. You shouldn't be able to get from there to your core network.
That's the theory. But they moved laterally. They used stolen service account credentials.
And that's a key point. They didn't use some crazy exploit to jump that gap. They used valid credentials.
Correct. They used those credentials to fire up remote desktop protocol sessions, RDP. They moved from the web servers, pivoted to the domain controllers, and then eventually to the vCenter server.
That path is the nightmare scenario. Once you're on a domain controller, you're harvesting identities. But the report specifically says they compromised an ADFS server.
Active Directory Federation Services. This is pivotal.
So for anyone listening, ADFS is what handles federated identity, right?
Yeah.
It lets you use your work login for cloud apps.
It's the system that says, yes, this user is who they say they are.
And by compromising it, the attackers were able to, export the cryptographic keys?
The token signing keys? Yes.
Oh.
And that is effectively game over for identity management.
Because if you have that key...
If you have that signing certificate, you can forge your own authentication tokens. You can create a token that says, I am the administrator, and this is valid for 10 years, and the system will accept it because it's signed by the legitimate key.
The golden SAML attack, you don't need passwords. You don't need to bypass MFA because the token just claims you already did.
It creates a level of persistence that is so difficult to eradicate. You can change every password, but if they have that key, they just mint a new ticket to get back in.
Okay, so they have the keys to the kingdom. They're on the vCenter server for over a year. How are they talking to the malware? Usually, if a core server starts sending data to a strange IP, a firewall would block it.
That's why they didn't send it to a strange IP. They used the invisibility cloak of DNS-over-HTTPS, DOH.
But wait, DOH is a privacy feature, isn't it? To stop your ISP from seeing your DNS queries.
It's a privacy feature for users, but it's a massive blind spot for defenders. BRICKSTORM routes its command and control traffic through legitimate public resolvers. The report names Cloudflare, Google, and Quad9.
So from the firewall's perspective, the traffic just looks like a server talking to Google's DNS at 8.8.8.8 through over HTTPS.
Exactly. It's port 443 traffic. It's encrypted, and it's going to a highly trusted destination. You can't just block all traffic to Google.
You're hiding a needle in a stack of needles.
And it gets more sophisticated.
Yeah.
That DOH tunnel is just for transport. Inside that connection, BRICKSTORM starts a WebSocket session. And inside that session, the data is wrapped in multiple nested layers of encryption.
A Russian nesting doll of encryption? So even if you were inspecting the HTTPS traffic, you'd still just see garbled data.
You see junk inside a WebSocket. It's brilliant, and it's terrifying.
And through this channel, they have full interactive access.
Full command line. They can browse files, upload new tools, download data. They could even set up SOCKS proxies,
which lets them turn the vCenter server into a jump box to get to other, more isolated parts of the network.
Correct. It turns your management server into a router for the attackers.
This is bleak. But CISA didn't just publish this to scare everyone. They gave us detection methods.
They did, and this is the actionable part. They released 6 YARA rules and 1 Sigma rule.
So for those not in a SOC every day, YARA rules are basically pattern matching for files, right? Like a signature.
Think of it like a signature scan on steroids, yeah. It looks for specific code snippets or strings inside a file on your disk, so it can find the BRICKSTORM binary even if it's been renamed to something innocent.
And the Sigma rule.
Sigma is for log analysis. It looks for behavioral patterns.
Oh.
So while YARA looks at the file itself, Sigma looks at what the file did.
Okay, so if you're managing vSphere, step 1 is grab those rules and go hunting. What about mitigation?
Upgrade VMware. That's baseline. Patch the vulnerabilities. But beyond that, the report really emphasizes network segmentation.
The DMZ problem we talked about earlier.
Exactly. A web server should never have a direct RDP path to a domain controller or vCenter, ever. You need to sever that path.
The flat network is dead. You have to compartmentalize.
And specifically for their command channel, block unauthorized DNS over HTTPS providers.
That seems tough for some organizations.
It can be, but it's critical. Your internal servers should use your internal DNS. They have no business talking to Google or Quad9 over HTTPS. If you block those specific DDoS endpoints at the firewall, you cut the phone line. The malware might be there, but it can't get instructions.
It neutralizes the immediate threat while you figure out how to clean up.
Exactly. But cleaning up is, well, it's complex.
Because of the zombie persistence.
If you find BRICKSTORM on a vCenter server, you really have to ask, can I ever trust this operating system again?
With modified boot scripts, hidden artifacts, reimaging is often the only safe bet.
Burn it down and rebuild from a known good source. It's painful, but it's necessary.
So when we zoom out, what's the big takeaway here?
I think it shows how living off the land is evolving. It's not just about using built-in Windows tools anymore. They're abusing fundamental internet protocols like DH and the fundamental structure of the data center itself.
And the patience. 17 months. That requires discipline.
It does. This is strategic prepositioning. They're embedding themselves into the nervous system of the target for the long haul.
That assume breach mentality just seems more relevant than ever.
You have to assume they are already in the drywall.
Before we wrap, I want to go back to that shift to Rust. I think the implications are just huge.
It's a watershed moment, really.
You have state-sponsored actors adopting the same modern memory-safe languages that top enterprise software companies use. They're treating malware development like product development.
It raises the bar for everyone.
So if malware becomes as stable and robust as the operating systems it attacks, are we entering an era of indestructible malware? We used to rely on malware being buggy and crashing things at a detection signal. If that signal goes away and it's hiding in traffic that looks like it's going to Google, the needle gets smaller and the haystack gets bigger.
It suggests the future of defense isn't just about finding bad files. It's about anomaly detection at a much deeper level. If the malware is perfect code, you have to catch it by its intent, not its flaw.
And intent is a lot harder to write a rule for. Something to chew on while you check your vCenter logs tonight.
And maybe check your sysconfig folder while you're at it.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into BRICKSTORM. It's a sobering report.
Absolutely. Stay vigilant.
We'll catch you on the next one.